Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host, Gino Barbaro.
Hey, Joel.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You ready for this one?
I think so. This is a big
We got
podcast.
another co-founder on today.
I know. That's why I'm getting there. I'm reading it. I'm like, that's wrong.
I'm sorry.
We have two founders going on. This
I'm
is like
stepping
the
down.
biggest,
I'm stepping down.
We have
all
the
right?
biggest podcast ever, guys. Gino, who do we have on?
I don't know, but he's usually wearing black, and I'm usually wearing pastel, and it's flipped over today. So,
It's the Gino show. This is intentional, okay? I know I'm coming on the Gino and Julia show.
And here we are in black, right?
so it's really it's hard for me to put in words what this guest has meant to me and my life and his family. I met him back in 2009, and the relationship started off great. I met his wife, Whitney, at the time, and we're going to talk about it on the podcast, and we're going to talk about the profound impact that they've had with their lives, with their kids, with our kids. So without further ado, Whitney and Jake Stenziano, welcome to the show.
It's giving me goosebumps
This
here.
is
Like I wasn't
exciting.
ready for this early in the morning.
Tearing your eyes.
Well, Jake and Whitney, I want to jump into the story because everyone sees you guys now. You have a beautiful house. You have an amazing family. You're doing really well. They don't see the work that went into what you guys went into. They didn't see the sacrifice that you left your wife and went down to Knoxville. Where's Knoxville? You're going to Knoxville?
I didn't leave my
I know. I was
wife.
going to
Like,
correct
we're
that.
still together.
Hold on.
Doesn't it feel like leaving for like months though? I mean, doesn't it feel like you left her and you're alone down there in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment and she's up in New York? That's a huge sacrifice, isn't it? I mean, let's talk about that.
So here's the thing. The person that called it was actually my grandfather. So he's like, I'm worried about him. I don't know if he's going to be okay. So I'm going to develop the backstory a little bit. So it was late 2010, and I'm networking with you and your brother, and I see like how expensive it is to live in New York. I'm looking at the property taxes, like high $20,000, $30,000 property taxes, high state income taxes, the crummy weather. The list goes on and on. It just didn't seem like a good fit. And the country is set up so that different states can operate differently, okay, the federalist system. So I said, look, I'm going to do an Excel spreadsheet. I started ranking the different states based on, weather and, the ability to prosper, essentially, who's going to be like the business-friendly states, who's not going to, take all the money for living there. And I ranked out, Northern Florida, Tennessee, Texas, those states kept coming up for no state income taxes. Texas fell off a little bit because they had the higher property taxes, but they all had much better weather as well, and they seemed business friendly. So I said to Whitney, I said, look, let's take a shot at one of these. What would you like? And of course, she's like, well, I don't want to be that far away from my parents. So Florida was out. Texas was too far away. So we kind of honed in on East Tennessee. And this job came up with my current company. We said, okay, what do you think? And she's like, no. So I stayed persistent. I kept knocking on that door, asking. And
okay, first of all, I never thought.
I'm so excited that we have the other side
That was
here.
just like
I
a
love
crazy
it.
thing.
Well, because he comes up with all this grandiose ideas all the time, and sometimes they get pushed through. A lot of times they get pushed through, but sometimes they kind of fizzle out. So I said, yes, okay, let's look. And well, this one got pushed through.
So the cool thing is that I took a lateral transfer with my pharmaceutical job, and the area manager was from New Jersey. So he's like, oh, I get it. This makes total sense. But he's putting me through the ringer. He was not paying for any of my, like the company would normally, fly you out, pay for your expense travels and things like that when you're interviewing for a job. But he wanted to see how bad I wanted it. So he was like, not paying for any of that. I had to carry all this costs. Whitney was going down with me. And, my whole thing was when I used to be in corporate America, I was just a savage prepping for interviews. So we're driving down and she has all I have this big stack of paper interviewing with all the note cards, and she's interviewing me like the whole way down and prepping you.
Well, even I had to come up with a PowerPoint of why I wanted to move down here too.
Oh yeah, he started interviewing her as well. So it was like
Wow.
it was a whole family. So she had to lie. Okay, we're not always perfect, right?
I don't lie. I don't lie.
You
I
stretch
make
the
them
truth.
jealous.
But Whitney, I mean, what convinced you to want to move down there? I mean, was it Jake's conviction that he wanted to get down? Did you want to change? I mean, what was it?
Yeah, it was I was fine with where I was going. I'm not a huge change person. So it was Jake's really his persistence, and I could see how much he wanted it. So
She wasn't convinced, she said, I said, just give it a chance. If it doesn't work, we can always move back.
yes,
It was,
that was a big thing. When he said we can always move back, I was like, okay, all right, let's give it a chance.
what's the worst thing that could happen was the question.
Wow, and he didn't even have those skills back then. He's really refined those skills now. So
Oh no! He's had those skills for a while. He just fine-tuned them.
Wow. So you know what it was? I mean, like I've been doing a lot of research on this. It's really he was trying to hit you on an emotional level, an analytical level, and a logical level. I mean, like emotionally, let's try it, right? Analytically, he's done all the homework. So you can refute everything, but he's telling you, well, the weather's better.
Yeah.
It's better cost of living. It's nicer, all of that. So I said the same thing to my wife. I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? We move down and we don't like it, we move back up. But Whitney, let me ask you, what did your family say? I mean, were you getting a lot of, because for us, the grandparents come down here and we're never going to see you again. And it's like the end of the world. I'm not going to North Korea. I'm going to Florida,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, my sister moved down, 2 weeks after we did.
Oh, right.
And then my brother moved down.
AKA Uncle Sean.
Uncle Sean. He moved down, 2 years ago now?
I'm not great with time, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 years ago. So that was taken care of. But my parents are still have an anchor in New York. My dad has a lot of family there. They kept on asking us, every month or so, when are you moving back? And it just, we're trying to get them here part-time at least now.
Jake and Gino, I guess you're both being interviewed here, but the two of you are so amazing. You're such good examples for those who are struggling with all those people out there that are stuck in their job, that they want to change, that they want to move, they want to do all these things. And, the both of you are, so good at education. You do the education, you work really hard, you work really smart, which is really important. You don't make excuses. And, we see that. You never stop. And I love that about you guys. But there is another end to it. There's the other side that's home, that you guys are working hard, but then in this situation, the wives are home saying, we're going to move, we're going to leave everyone we know. And it's a big change for us. And so how, Jake and Gino, how do you guys support our end?
First of all, it's on tape. She called me amazing. She can't take that back. So
there was a lot of good there. I mean, we can play that one back a couple times. I'm liking this. We're gonna do more of these shows, Gino.
It's a great way to start the day, isn't it?
It's okay. I'm gonna go I'm gonna flip it. So don't worry.
Wow. I don't know how to answer that. You go, Yaki, you answer that first, and I'll follow you, bro.
So I'm gonna take it back for just a minute because Gino asked me something earlier, and then I'm gonna two-part this.
You can't avoid the personal.
I'm not avoiding. We're gonna
dive into it. Somehow this answer is gonna go real estate. I know it.
No, I have a significant point to make on Gino's first question that we didn't get to. So when I first moved down here, I just want to make this. It was really hard because I was by myself, and that's what Gino was kind of alluding to. And I started getting like a little cuckoo. I was timing myself going to the grocery store, and I had my grocery bill down to $45 a week, and I would get in and out within 23 minutes. And so I just started you don't want to leave me by myself because I start doing it all becomes about efficiency, and there's no quality of life. And so I was down here for literally 6 months, and it was such a blessing to get her back down here because I was literally starting to lose it. So that was one end of it. And the second part of, your question, Julia, was how do we support the family on an emotional level and while we're being here. So One of the really cool things is that we have adopted like the Rick Sapio model of like, I don't know if he calls it the family playbook or the little family placemat, but we meet every Sunday morning and we get very detailed, and I don't want to make it rigid, but we've essentially systematized our family life. So we go over, okay, what are we doing as a family? We're making sure that we're having dinner, every night, and we're checking that box. What's for dinner? And then we're going, okay, what are the family vacations? Okay, we got the Barbaros coming up. We're going to plan that sucker out. It's going to be an awesome time. And then also mommy and daughter dates, daddy-daughter dates. We're planning this stuff out because life, especially when, I don't know, Gino, we have 25 entities or something we're running, can get very busy. So if you don't allocate the time and make sure there's time allotted for that stuff, it won't happen. So I think comes down to really engaging with each other, taking that time out. We have the coffee there. I get up really early. I plan the week out for the business, and then we sit and we have a nice family time. So I think it's just the dedication and awareness to it. For me personally, I mean, that's sort of my answer. I don't know who's up next, Gino or Whitney, but
no, Whitney's up next.
No, that was you, baby. I have another question for Whitney.
For me,
we're in the hot seat, Gino. I'm getting nervous about this.
I'm gonna go back to 2010 when Jake talked about it. 23 minutes to the grocery store, $45 for the grocery bill. How many steps did it take to and from the car, right? I mean, that's lonely, everybody. I want everybody out there.
That is lonely. No, I was bad. It was bad.
It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not an easy thing to do, and you need clarity. I want everybody out there during this pandemic, during this time of change. A lot of us are in that situation where we're saying to ourselves, do we need to live here? Do we need a big change? Do we need a reset? And that's what it was for me, having that reset to come down here. And for me, ultimately, for my family, the reason why I love what I do right now is I was always a hard worker like Jake. I just didn't like my job. And I would come home from work unsatisfied or unhappy. And I didn't want my kids to see me being unhappy or not fulfilled for my job and working hard and putting those two together and thinking I've got to work for the next 40 years of my life, hating my job, but I have to work hard just to support my family. So for me, finding the avenue of real estate and coaching and helping other people out and coming and doing these podcasts and enjoying my day and getting on end of day huddles and talking to the team, that's what's exciting to me. And then having my family involved in that, whether my daughter's editing the podcasts, my son is working with Jake and Gino underwriting deals. My 14-year-old is doing real estate with me, and she's looking at single family homes in St. Augustine. And the kids are going to be going to Jake's house in July, and they're coming to boot camps. That to me is what has been awesome and a transformation. And it's not about the money. I think everybody out there looking for an occupation, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, don't be afraid to involve your children in it. Start small.
I was on an underwriting call with your son yesterday.
No.
Dude, he's killing me every day. He's asking me questions. I don't know, Mike. I almost want to say, Mike, I'm not sure, and he's wearing me out, and he's doing a great job. And it's just being an example for our children, right? And being there and showing them that hard work pays off. Having a growth mindset, being able to say, I don't know everything, but if you work hard and you commit, you will figure it out, and just follow. I don't know what you say, Jake, with the passion. Follow your passion. You sort of have to like what you're doing. I think my son really likes what he's doing right now, but it's also the end result of being successful and having the end goal of hitting it.
Gino, it's two things. It's exposure. I didn't have this kind of exposure as a kid. My daughter's sitting there telling me about what to do with the Ran Man logos for the next event. She's 5 years old. How does she know the term logo? Like, that's mind blowing. And like my son will come up and we'll have a shirt on or something. It'll be Ran Man. And so it's like they're getting exposed to things, at the different events. My daughter's like always pushing to get up on stage and these different things. So it's exposure, but it's also having a vehicle that allows you to do so much, whether you're analytical and you want to be on the underwriting side, like Michael that we were just talking about, or if you like Emma's like all about the public speaking and wants to get on stage. The businesses that we've created, there's so many opportunities, and it's a great vehicle because it's a basic human need. So I think that's so cool about it. And I think much like you, we want the kids involved if they want to be involved.
I love that.
Yeah.
And for me, I haven't spoken real estate in this podcast, and I won't, because every time I do, I get yelled at. So I heard basic human need. I was going to go cap rates or something, but I held back for a second. So
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
So anyway, Jake, why multifamily? No, I'm just kidding. You know,
for the inclusion of the children, Julia.
There you go. There you go. That's the right answer. You know, business partnership is so important. You know, you're the way you guys communicate, the respect for each other and all that. But what about the partnership as far as both of our families? You know, I can just tell you, the Barbaro family, we're so grateful for you, the Stenziano family. You are awesome to us. And I just want to let you know that. And I know you know that, but it's important that we also have a relationship, the whole families. And so what advice, even Whitney, how can we, you know, spread the word that it's not just so much, you know, in our situation, the guys' partnership, but all of our partnerships, you know, the family partnerships. So how can we just, you know, let people know to get together with the families? If you guys are partnering up with somebody out there, the Jake and Gino guys, get the partners together, get all the families together.
Yeah, I think we are very lucky, us as a family, to have such great people on the other side. So, you know, I think we've struck gold there. But yeah, it is important for everybody to get together and have one goal in mind. You know, Emma and Chase, they love your kids, so you know, it makes the things
That's really the biggest thing, because when Gino and the kids are coming, that's all we hear about. So like if we keep the kids happy, everything else works out.
Yeah.
I think there's another part to that as well, is that when you're going through a partnership, Gino we talk a lot about like what makes a good partnership, and I think it's a business marriage in so many ways. So it's not rushing it, but on the front end, it's making sure that moral compass is there. And that's, you know, something Gino and I, look, it took us 18 months to get that first deal. I had the relationship with Marco prior, and it just, you know, it was there. So we kind of moved on. So I think it's a big part of it is vetting that moral compass, because the rest of the stuff, you know, will fall in line. And I know Gino can talk about the sniff test. I won't ruin that.
Dude, you're in my mind. It's scary.
Yeah, well, you know, we do this every once in a while together, right?
Dude, you know what it is, honestly?
I feel like this is complete. I feel like you're complete on this podcast.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what I think of when I first started working with Jake, and now that I've carried it over. I don't only think of making money for myself. I always think of making money for my partners. So I'm working hard for my partner. I'm working hard for Chase. I'm working hard for Emma. I'm working hard for Josh. I'm working hard for the entire team. So for me, that's what a partnership is all about. If you don't like your partners, you're not going to really work hard for them. So for me, as I get older, I want to work for people that I really like, that I really trust, that I can spend time with, that I can enjoy. And I know that when we have to do a phone call at 7:00 at night, I'm not doing it just for myself. I'm doing it for my entire team. So that makes it a lot easier, you know, and when you can visualize other people on the other side, the wealthier we get, the wealthier we make other people. It's just a lot easier for me to work with people. And it's all comes down to value-based decision-making. We didn't know back then. We just like each other. I knew Jake would come in the restaurant with a calendar. He'd have his lunches planned out. He's the only person that I know that I didn't have like, can you get lunch tomorrow? No, I knew 3 weeks ahead of time. I knew that he worked hard. I knew that he worked smart. I knew he was a man of faith. So that to me was all really important. You can cut me off over here?
I'm trying.
Okay.
No, I kind of want to go there where what you're saying is I want Whitney and Jake, I want you to take us back to that conversation of, Jake, you said something. You said, I'm going to partner with Gino Barbaro. I want to know about that. Can you remember that conversation?
Well, I know a whole lot of money was.
How'd that make you feel?
Shifted. I know we were looking for, what are those, the things that I got when I was born?
Oh, we cashed in bonds.
Yeah,
Oh.
I had bonds from when I was born.
Like, did you know Gino? Did you know anything about him?
No, I knew more about Marco.
Okay, no, because that's important, and I wonder like what that conversation was. And who is Gino? It's like, well,
you're so long too, because it was literally, we started looking at deals, and then it went on, and before we even did a deal, it was. I mean, we're close to, I don't know, even from the time we first started, like it was close to 2 years. So it was sort of this like gradual thing that never happened.
Yeah, it was very gradual. It wasn't like this, sit down and have this conversation. But I mean, I always trusted him
Mm-hmm.
to do the best for our family.
Yeah.
We weren't a family at the time, but we
Mhm.
were together for quite a while,
Mhm.
and I always kind of trusted him and his he's pretty good at reading people
Mhm.
and knowing their characters and
She's complimenting yourself right now.
Well, the trust is
I
so
am,
important.
actually.
The trust is so important in a relationship.
So Whitney, but I
Yeah.
remember us looking for our first deal, and y'all went out and bought a house. while we were looking.
He's going y'all on us right now.
So, but I remember that, and I remember saying, at the time, I would have done the exact same thing. I mean, it wasn't a smart move financially, but I know that you guys had sacrificed so much to get down there, and you needed a house, and you needed home base, and I'm like, okay, and go ahead.
Okay, so we were together for
Oh, here we go.
yes, here we go. We were together for 9 years. And he said to me, okay, well, do you want a ring or do you want a house? And I
Oh,
said,
boy.
I want a house. First off, I want a house. So he owed me that house.
I was in debt, man.
9 years.
Okay, I never heard that
Okay,
story.
Jake, hold on a second.
You want to hear an
What
even
was the
better
holdup?
story?
I want to talk about what the holdup was with the engagement.
No, go ahead.
Should we go there? No.
No, we can. And she tells this story all the time. It's just lack of awareness. Like, we're just going, doing our thing. I thought everything was hunky-dory. We went to my parents live in Western New York. We drove back to see them over a weekend. And I got, I'm getting a silent treatment here in the car. And I'm like, well, what is going on? And you can take it from there. I mean, I got, damn.
Finally,
Brought
right?
me to a beautiful mountain overlooking a beautiful lake with a bottle of wine.
Oh, gosh.
I thought
fancy guy.
this is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This is going to happen. Not to mention one of my best friends got, engaged after 2 years of dating, but
Not helping my cause.
I think we were a year we dated.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
so yeah, I didn't want to be that person to push him into
Mhm.
a corner and be like, this is either going to happen or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I just waited. I was
she's
happy.
she's being very subtle right now. We had
Mm-hmm.
a conversation in the car. How'd that go?
We did have a conversation. Everything came to a head, and I just
She
I
said,
let
"What's
him
up,
know
dude? What's
what
going
I was
on?"
thinking.
And what was your response?
I just I said, "Look, I had no idea. I felt like we were pretty young still. I mean, we were 28, and it just was." It was a self-awareness thing. I didn't know that she was, look, I'm not a mind reader, and guys, we have a lack of awareness many times, especially when it comes to the emotional things. And so it just wasn't on my radar. So I literally needed that kind of whack to say, hey, this is something we want to do, or, I want to do here. Where are you at?
Was it a lack of communication from you? I mean, that's something that I would do. I don't even want to say awareness.
Yeah, Gino's in my corner, bro.
You're pretty aware, but it's lack of communication, right? I mean, sometimes I don't communicate properly. I don't communicate well. We've gotten better with time, much better with time. But in the beginning, just sometimes I just didn't communicate really well. We didn't speak, and then we have it bottled up, and then all of a sudden it comes to a head, and that's not the way you need to do it, right, Jill?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that we go through that because we all learn, right? We all learn how to communicate, obviously, through
Hold
trial
on,
and error.
there's more to this story, though, so I made up for it, okay?
I want to hear the making
You
of.
want to talk about the movie theater a little bit?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I want to hear from you.
He did a very good job proposing.
Ah.
He had the movie theater open up an hour early, and he told me you were in.
I was doing my MBA at the time.
Yeah, your MBA. And he said that he had to go see Wall Street for extra credit. So I said, okay, let's go. We went in, and it was dark, and we were just sitting there waiting for the movie to start. And all of a sudden I hear these people behind me, and I go to turn. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't stare at people. That's so weird.
We were the only ones in there, only ones in the theater, okay?
So I was like, okay, well, I want to get some popcorn. He's like, no, I'm not getting popcorn right now. We'll get it in a little while.
So this ain't going too well, bro. You're killing her right now.
Thinking back on it, I should have known, but we were sitting there, and all of a sudden these ads start popping up, and then there was a picture of the two of us.
Oh, gosh.
So I was sitting there, and I remember this very clearly. I probably got down this big.
For the folks on YouTube.
Yeah. I shrunk down in my seat so far. And he probably did a picture a year that we were together. So it was a nice long
Had some music going to
long production.
Did you get your popcorn, by the way?
No. And he got down on his knee and proposed.
Wow.
She still never said anything to this day. She hasn't said yes or no, but we got married.
Yeah, I don't remember after that point. And the lights came on, and it was my family and our friends. And
Oh.
My family.
Oh, that's
That was
beautiful.
really
Our families now.
So we got all the
That's
sunshine, we got all the
beautiful.
sunshines and rainbows now. And then I want to fast forward to the conversation when Jay comes home and says,
Mm-hmm.
Whitney, I'm quitting my job and I'm doing real estate full time. What was your idea there? Because that's got to be really, really frightening. And I'm going to ask my wife that same question after you've done answering
I
that
told
question.
that. Okay.
it was scary. I think I asked him repeatedly, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And he talked about taking his 401k out and putting it towards real estate. So our nice cushion that we had started.
IRA, 401k, HELOC. We burned the ships.
Grandma, grandpa, come on.
Grandma,
Yeah.
grandpa, Whitney's bonds.
Yeah,
from
my
when she was a
bonds
kid,
from
so-
when I was little. But like I said before, I trusted him. He was so driven, and he did his research, like you said, Gino. So I was like, okay, let's do it.
Let's go.
And that's all. Just okay, let's do it. So, but what were you really afraid of? What was the fear? I mean, like for me-
Starvation.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, honestly, like if looking back at that now, if he had failed, do you think he could have gone back and gotten his job again?
Yeah. So I've never worried about him being able to provide.
Why?
really, Because he's very driven. He does his research, like you said. He's got everything planned out to the T. So I've never really worried about that.
Tell them about the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches back in the UPS days.
Oh, yeah.
This is good.
So we were living in Brockport in between semesters, and we have been pretty low as far as money goes. So I wasn't afraid to go back there. We have been there. He worked 2 jobs.
2 a.m. to 6, and then Radio Shack for the rest of the day. So at UPS. Yeah.
I didn't have a job at the time. Nobody would give me a job for just the summer up there because I was going back to school. So I did not have a job, and we were eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches, cheese sandwiches with 1 piece of cheese.
Until the sales career blew up at Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Then we started eating ham and cheese, baby. Yeah.
We lived in the most disgusting house you can think of. So we've been there, not that afraid of it. We had each other. We were good.
Wow. So now that you've gone into real estate full time, how was it when you had your first child? As far as juggling time, what was that like for you guys?
That was difficult. I was working as a nurse full time, and Jake, obviously, his schedule was pretty busy. He would have to stop everything when we had a nanny at the time helping out. He would have to stop everything when the nanny would go home and watch Emma until I got home at around 8:30 or so. So it was difficult trying to balance time. We didn't really want to send her to a, I guess you could say
Daycare or
daycare.
something. Yeah.
We tried to go that route, and it just didn't work out for us. So,
It was an amazing bond for me though, because we would literally, I couldn't just sit there. So we were always doing activities. So I would go on these really long walks with her, and it was just like the most amazing. I think, forever, I haven't had that as much time with my son as I had with Emma. And I think we'll always have a really strong bond because of those years where we spent so much time while she was working. So I wouldn't have traded that for the world. It's awesome. So
Love that. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Is your money working as hard as you are? At Rand Partners, we partner with hard-working investors who are seeking true passive income through multifamily real estate. Partnering with Rand means transparent communication with our webinars, monthly statements, and newsletters. For more information, visit randpartners.com to register for our investor portal and to set up a call with our team.
So Jake and Gino, I have a question. What's the reason behind your success?
The reason behind our success is our clarity. Number one, we both know what we want. Number two, the amazing way that our spouses and our families support us. Without that, and without people believing in us, I don't think I'd be successful. Because like Jake said, my wife would take care of the children. You take care of the kids. I go to work and I can focus on my job. I can focus on work. That's really important to me, because if I'm getting interrupted every 10 minutes, I can't perform. So the ability, and like Whitney has for Jake, she has such confidence in his ability, but also confidence in the way that he prepares and the way that he works hard. And I think I have the same thing for you. You know that I'm going to put out as much effort as possible. So having that confidence from you gives me confidence, because our behaviors are belief driven. If I believe that you believe in me, then I'm going to work even harder. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So for me, that really helped me out. And just surrounding myself with amazing people, whether it's the Jake and Gino team, whether it's Jake, whether it's our families, that I think to me has been the most important thing for my success.
Julie, it's really interesting because we talk a lot about being a team sport, but none of this works if she's saying, "What the hell are you doing, you psycho? Why are you doing this?" Or you're saying, you know, to Gino, like, "This isn't going to work. I'm not supportive." And there's an interesting correlation. Like when she comes down to Tennessee after those 6 months, things start picking up for me, because I was super awkward. Like I was like, oh, I wonder if the culture is different here than New York. And so I'm not a timid guy. I was super timid. And I was like, how do I assimilate? It's really like the culture is not different. It's a great culture down here. I was the one being weird. She comes down and starts making friends. So things start picking up for us. And I'm like, oh, this is just like, you know, anywhere else. So that was huge. But it's not just the people on the business team. It's a full team sport. Everyone needs to be clicking. Everyone needs to be, you know, walking to the same beat. And the other thing that, and I say this, it's so cliche, but Gino and I just have a knack for not quitting. We don't rush things. Like, you know, last year we only did 2 deals. Everyone's like, you know, trying to force all this stuff. We don't care. We just hang in there and we show up every day. Like that's probably like our best qualities. We just continue to show up. We're extremely pesky, and there's no reason to quit. But it's true. Like, look, you can't beat somebody that doesn't quit. It's like, you know, so that's really
that's awesome. It's important. And I wrote down the reason for your success is because you have 2 awesome wives. So that was
my first answer. That was the first thing I said. So.
I thought I was going to have to like say that at the end, but that's
lack of awareness, Jake. It's our lack of awareness.
I said everybody. I was saying everybody on this call. So,
I'm just teasing you guys.
Right,
come on.
Down.
You know, it's important for the spouses in this situation, Whitney and I, that we have a respect for. You know, that I have a respect for you, Jake, and Whitney for Gino. And I can just tell you, back in 2014, it was July 25th, and we were on our way to the hospital, and I was in labor. And it was just the 2 of us, and my husband was terrified, and we're driving on the highway, and the phone rings. And I look down, Jake Stenziano, and I'm like, okay.
Dude,
and there was a moment.
I'm going to pick the phone up, bro. We're doing a deal.
There was a moment of silence, and I could feel like that tension of what do I do? And this tells me everything it tells me that I know my husband chose right in his partnership, because I said, answer it. And there you 2 were.
Oh man!
We talked about a deal during labor, and I thought, how interesting that is.
Dude, I can't.
We have one of those too.
Yeah, it shows that that respect. So I'm like, all right.
So Jake, I'll give you another one. Okay, so when I look at it from like your perspective, we're hardwired to provide, right? And that's how I am. And we had Cecilia. She's born on a Saturday at home, right? We have a home birth. That's our 5th child. And the phone rings, and it's my brother. And he's like, dude, you got to come in. The water's not working at the restaurant. And the fact that I even answered the phone, I called the plumber, I did everything. We're just hardwired to do that. And like Jake says, it's commit and figure it out. And sometimes our wives will get mad at us, but I think ultimately I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it just to provide. And that phone call, July 25th, 2014, we had just closed on our 136 unit 4 months prior. And Jake needed me for that call. I remember that call. We're on 84, branching off. It goes 7. And I remember
on 2 wheels.
Yeah. Dude, I remember that like it was yesterday. And it was just weird because I know I was going to be locked down for the rest of the night, and like I got to speak to him beforehand. So that to me was really
that's important. Is that relationship at home, because you can have the best partner ever, but if that relationship at home if that communication isn't open, then it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle for you to succeed because I'm giving you a hard time about who you're calling, what time it is. I can't believe you're on the phone already. And so that's why it's that conversation of, Jake is my partner. And when he calls, it's really important. I'm not just calling to talk about sports, which is sometimes, but for some reason it doesn't bother me anyway, but that's important. And Whitney, I have to tell you that the first time we met, I think we escaped to Tennessee, right? Wasn't that the
oh, maybe.
the
Was it really?
I think so, yeah.
I don't think we met before that.
Yeah,
and you both opened your home to all 8 of us. We left because of a hurricane. Here we are new in Florida. We had no idea what to expect. And you invited us. And that means so much to us because that shows what type of person you are, that you just opened up, didn't even know us. And here we are taking over your home.
With the chili and the goulash and the cheese. And she was like,
we had a blast.
It was so worth it.
It was awesome. And we connected. And I think that's what's important, because the spouses of the partners, it's so important that we figure out how to make a relationship, even though we could be so different. And a lot of people out there are super different, but it doesn't matter. You can still have a relationship, a connection. And I think that's so important.
So what was your question? I didn't get your question.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have a statement to make based on the prior thing that Julie was saying, and Gino, you're talking about being providers. The similarities between Gino and myself, I think, we talked about not quitting, but we're both in real estate. A lot of times you hear people call themselves deal junkies. Gino and I are far from, we love a good deal just as much as anybody, but I would say the difference is that we're responsibility junkies. Like we are so like, and I truly mean that, like we are completely, and I know he feels the same way, responsible for all of our outcomes in our environment. And we don't ever push that off on someone else. And I think that's one of the reasons that, the partnership works so well, because we take full accountability for everything that we do.
I think we're also results junkies. I think we want to have results, and it doesn't matter how much money we make. We just want to have a good result, whether it's coming down, enjoying time, doing a deal, doing a refi, I'm a little real estate, whatever that may be. We're not just so much geared in as what's going on, but we want to have a great result from it. So that's the important thing. And working with a partner makes it that much more fun. So, anything else, Julie, you want to pepper Jake with? Any other? Well, I know last time we went out to dinner, we had a great conversation. and I know
I was waiting for this.
Were you really? I actually wanted to bring it. I know Whitney.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Next time we're going to go down. So we're going to be down during that week. So
let's talk about that conversation.
Let's go talk about it. Well, what did you like?
Oh man, he's taking the gloves off.
There was some wine. There was some wine involved, and that means I talk way too much, and I ask so many questions. I think Whitney was happy with the conversation.
I was very happy with the conversation.
So why were you? What made you so happy about the conversation?
It opened up lines of communication that Jake and I were not having. And I think it took an outside person, aka Julia, to help us tap into each other a little bit further, I guess you could say.
Wow, that is so politically correct, man. Woo!
Well, I want to know what changed since then.
I'm going to say something before you answer that, because this is something that, here's the thing. It's about being self-aware and understanding yourselves. And so I think, Gino and I talk about our dads a lot, and there's probably, they're probably cut from a similar cloth, and we're not huge, like feelings and emotional based. And that was kind of like not something that was discussed, I think, for us as kids. And even going through this whole coronavirus thing, our teams wanted this transparency and they wanted this communication. So we had stacked all these meetings. And I think one thing with Gino and myself is that, you really got to pull that stuff out if you want to have those conversations, because we're not going to give it to you voluntarily. It's just not necessarily who we are. So when we want to take a deeper dive and talk about some of these things, you got to kind of put the crowbar in and start to pry, because you're not going to, it's just not naturally going to come out of us. And for me, that was what was, not only from like what we learned about the Corona and our teams and the communication they wanted, but that dinners are some things that I'm going to use a Gino term, y'all want to talk about, and we're just happy sitting there and let's have a beer and eat some steak. But
you had some lobster going on over there. It was really
did
good.
Oh yeah, the lobster mac and cheese was delicious.
See,
yeah.
I remember that, bro. So
I would say our communication had been better, and he was listening more. So that was making me happier.
Growth mindset.
Yeah, I think that he was more aware of my feelings after that.
That's a big deal.
It is.
It's huge. It's bigger than you guys think.
He's smiling. Look at that. He's really smiling. We should go to dinner more often then when we're down there.
Yes.
Wow. So, Jake, let's wrap this up. I mean, as far as communicating with your spouse, and you want to get into real estate, looking back now, and we have a Jake and Gino student who wants to get into real estate, who's struggling to speak to their spouse and maybe convincing them, what advice would you give them?
What's the worst thing that could happen? You got to bring the analytics, and then also talk about like, this is what could happen for us. And then realize that, look, you can always pick yourself back up. The jobs are going to be there. The cream always rises to the top. So if you're a high performer, you will be able to go back and find something else. And what it's about, you get one shot at this life. You get one. And for me, what's super important is freedom and prosperity and abundance for my family. We look, I see my daughter and my kids every day. Every day I'm working at home. They come in, banging on the door. I'm like, guys, I'm on a podcast or something, right? But look, that's the life that we've been able to create and that we want. And if Gino's going to probably touch on this later, if you're working to build someone else's dream, you're not going to have that opportunity. So look, you get one shot. Why not take the risk and go for it? And realistically, like in our shoes, just keep going till you figure it out. It's not rocket science. You're talking to the pizza rep and the pizza guy and the drug rep here. So look, it's, I just think that why not? I can't, I just don't see the reason not to try.
So for me, the way I would answer it is ask yourself what is important for you. Don't listen to the mantras out there that it's risky. A W-2 job is risky with the pandemic. Really, what's important for you? And ultimately, like Jake said, ask this question. Are you building your own dream, or are you building somebody else's dream? And even with the restaurant, I was not building my own dream. I was building my dad's dream, and my dad wanted the restaurant. And I was using that as, I'm building a real amazing business, and I wasn't. And I felt like that was holding me back. So once I evaluated that and I said, I need to be my own person. I need to leave New York. I need to find my true identity in business and as a person. That was a no-brainer for me. That's how I convinced my wife to come down. And I said, if we don't enjoy it down here, we can always move back up north.
Well, the one thing that I want to, I noticed between Whitney and I, the same answer was that we saw that you guys worked really hard. You didn't give up. You never stopped. You educated yourself. You didn't make excuses. And that's really important. So all those people out there that do want to take that chance and take the risk, like Jake said, you need to get educated, and you need to show that your spouse that you are being educated and you're working. You're not, saying, I can't get it to today because I'm busy. You have to do the work, right? And you have to take action.
So, Jewel, I normally wrap this show up.
Go for
it.
it.
Give me your show notes. You wrap it up. I can't wrap up Jake's
No, you got
podcast.
it. You're going to be great at it.
Am I?
Yeah.
Wow. Patience, persistence. I think working with your spouse and having that communication with them, setting goals together, reaching the goal is not the most important thing. I think becoming the person that you need to be to get to that goal is even more important, because we're constantly setting new goals. I love the idea of that value-based decision-making. I love the idea of a partnership is really a business marriage, and focusing on how you can help each other as partners and growing. And like Julia said, also looking at your partner's family and looking at them and saying, I'm providing for them. The decisions that I make, the hard work that I put into it, I'm working for them also. But you?
I also challenge everyone out there, set the time aside weekly to plan and prepare with your spouse. Look, I know I was talking about efficiency. I'm an efficiency junkie a little bit too, but we've gotten so much more efficient, like by sitting down. Efficient's the wrong word. We've gotten to do so many more cool things because we've planned. So I don't want to be misconstrued here. We're hitting more things now, meaning like, oh, they're going to go out on a mommy-daughter date because we planned it. And it doesn't take much time. And we're able to sit down, have some coffee on a Sunday and get it done. So I think it's been great. And we're also like getting more deliberate with our grocery shop. We're really planning out what are the meals going to be so that, we're eating healthier, I think, from it as well.
And it's that word is discipline, right? That's the word that you're looking for. I think it's discipline, and people get scared about it. But when you're disciplined in life, you really have your time freedom back because you're scheduling things. And yes, it's important.
That's hers. Mine doesn't have the colors. You know?
bullet journal.
I was going to say that's awfully pink.
Love that.
No, that's so important what you said, because if we don't plan it, then it doesn't happen. So that's important, Jake, what you said. Any parting words for us? Any advice you want to send out to any of the spouses out there, Whitney?
And where can the listeners get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of us at jakeandgino.com.
No, just go online.
So parting words are Barbaros, get ready, because this trip this summer is going to be off the hook. We got the whole gang coming up. We got royal princess parties planned. We got some dinner cruises on the boat. We're going to be hitting the jet ski. We're going to go hiking. Gino wants to get out there and shoot some guns. So we got a Tennessee vacation planned. all ready to go.
I guess what I would pretty much boil this down to is, spouses, whoever it may be, one needs to trust in their spouse and hold, I guess the other spouse needs to hold accountability, make sure that they are doing everything they can to provide. Like you said, education, persistence, and it does kind of come down to trust and working together.
Alignment of values. Yeah,
definitely.
I like that, guys.
This is a very different podcast for the two of you, huh?
For the two of us, yes. I didn't even mention real estate. I didn't even want
only one of these a year. This is a little much.
Until next time, everybody. We want to thank you both.
2025, maybe.
We want to thank you both for being on. We enjoyed the conversation greatly. And, everybody out there, use it as a roadmap. Use it as a framework. It's not easy. I mean, it's really a lot of hard work, but it's great. If you can share it with someone that you love and you can share this journey. And ultimately, I've just told my wife, we're helping other people out there. And it's an amazing thing to be able to help others and to be able to share with your family. So for all the entrepreneur families out there, don't be afraid to include your kids, because you're going to really enjoy it anyway.
Yeah,
totally.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. We hope you have a great day.
Whitney.
We'll see you soon. Take care.
Hey, Gino, the two most common questions I've been asked are, how do I get into real estate and do my first deal? The other question, how do I scale my real estate portfolio? Well, gang, we have great news for you. Gino, tell them about it.
We can help you answer both of those questions. At jakeandgino.com, we offer a variety of micro courses to help you along your real estate journey. Our proprietary 3-step framework has helped hundreds of real estate entrepreneurs successfully get started in real estate with no experience, and it has also helped experienced real estate entrepreneurs take it to the next level.
If you want more information, visit www.jakeandgino.com/courses. That's jakeandgino.com/courses, and use coupon code podcast for 20% off your purchase on taking the next step in your multifamily journey.